Hello and welcome to the Guitar Studio guitar course for beginners and born-again guitar players. I'm Mel Reeves and I'm here with Peter Lincoln to show you the parts of the guitar, how to tune up, chords, how to play songs, plus the beginnings of rock and blues soloing. Two of our students have volunteered to help us, Zorand and Stuart, and as you will see, the course is suited to both acoustic and electric guitars. So let's start straight away and check out the parts of the guitar. Now, whether you have an electric guitar like Stuart's here, which looks like the Starship Enterprise, which needs to be played through an amplifier in order to be heard, or an acoustic guitar like Zorand's that can annoy the neighbours without being plugged in at all, you should find that you have 6 strings which pass over the bridge here, go on past the sound hole on an acoustic guitar or the pickups on an electric. They carry on up the fingerboard to the nut and then go to the tuning machines or machine heads. Whammy bars, rosa switches and flashing lights are optional extras but are not essential for this course. You should have metal frets at intervals the length of the fingerboard. For the purposes of identification, the frets are numbered. Fret 1, fret 2, fret 3 and so on. The strings are also numbered. The thinnest string is the first string. Here's the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and the thickest string is the 6th. Finally, we need to number the fingers of each hand. Thumbs are still called thumbs. This is your first finger, second finger, third finger, and fourth finger. Should you not have the full complement of fingers on either hand, don't give up. Django Reinhardt and several of my past students have had one or several fingers missing. This merely means that you'll have to find some solutions of your own. It'll be worth the effort. The guitar's a great instrument to play, and what you give to it, it will give back to you 10 times over.
Tuning the guitar can be a great mystery to a beginner, and it may take you some time to master the art. Now, there are various devices on the market to assist us here, the most useful being electronic tuners like this. These are widely available, and the cheaper units start at around £25. They can be used with either electric or acoustic guitars. They're battery operated, and although the layout varies from one manufacturer to the next, they're very easy to use. There are musicians who dislike them, but unfortunately the microchip is more accurate than the ear. Now, you may be tempted in a moment of weakness to buy a set of pitch pipes. However, I wouldn't recommend these. Many people, especially beginners, find it difficult to match up the sound of a blown note from the pitch pipe to a plucked note on the guitar. So if your pocket won't stretch to an electronic tuner, there is another method of tuning available to us, and it goes like this. First, we need to tune our low E, the 6th string. If you have access to a reference instrument, such as a piano, then you can tune to that. If not, then here is my low E. Okay, assuming that you now have your 6th string tuned to E, then we can tune the other strings by matching them one to another as follows. Place your left hand, 2nd finger, on the 6th string at the 5th fret. Play the note. It should sound like this. This note is A. We now need to tune the 5th open string so that it sounds the same as our 6th string at the 5th fret. The best way to do this is to leave our 6th string note ringing while we play the open 5th string, like this. You should be able to hear that my 2 strings sound the same. If the 5th string note sounds higher or lower than your 6th string note, then you must alter it until they sound the same. Remember, you mustn't alter the 6th string as this is already in tune. Now I'll just put my 5th string out of tune so you can hear what it sounds like. You should be able to hear that my 5th string now sounds higher than my 6th. Let's put it right, making sure we're using the correct machine head. Oh, I think I've gone too far. Listen. My fifth string note is now lower than my sixth. There, that's fine. So we now have our fifth string tuned to A and in tune with the sixth. This may seem complicated at first, but with a bit of practice you'll soon get it right. Now, to tune the fourth string, we repeat the procedure, only this time we use the note on the fifth string at the fifth fret as our reference. So place your left hand, second finger, on the fifth string at the fifth fret. This note is D, and as before, we are going to try to match the open fourth string to this note. They should sound like this. Remember to use the right tuning machine and take your time to make sure that the strings sound the same. You may have to use your pause control quite a bit while we're tuning up. So assuming you've now tuned your fourth string, let's tune our third. Again, using the fifth fret note on the fourth string, which is a G, we can tune our open third string like this. Next we need to tune our second string. Now this time the procedure is slightly different in that we use the note at the fourth fret on the third string like this. This note is B. Now match the open second string to this. And finally, we put our first string in tune with the E note on the second string at the fifth fret. Your guitar is now in tune, and if you play across the open string slowly, you should get this sound. Just to make sure you've got this right, here's a chart which you can maybe freeze frame and check through the whole process one more time.
Having got your guitar in tune, you'll want to start playing straight away. We're going to start with chords. By learning chords, you'll be able to play song accompaniments almost immediately. When you've learned a sufficient number of chords, you can start buying songbooks. They're available for nearly all of the most popular artists, from AC/DC to Eric Clapton, Dolly Parton or Suzanne Vega to Dire Straits. You don't need to read music to understand these books, but you do need to know some chords. We'll be learning 3 different types of chord: major chords, minor chords, and seventh chords. They each have their own special sound and job to do. Let's start with the chord of E major. Place the first finger of your left hand on the third string just behind the first fret. Keep it there, and at the same time, place your second finger on the fifth string at the second fret. And also your third finger on the fourth string, also at the second fret. If you just strum across all 6 strings, either with your thumb or with a pick, it should sound just like this. Chances are it won't sound like that at all. Do make sure that your fingers aren't sloping like Zoran's here. If your fingers slope too much, you'll touch strings you don't want to touch, and you won't be able to put pressure on the strings that you do need to touch. Keep them upright, with your thumb applying pressure from behind, not sitting on top like some kind of pirate's parrot. Take your hand away and then try again. Keep doing this over and again until you've learned where to put your fingers and until each of the strings rings loud and clear, like this. Stop the tape here and get E major right before moving on. Not many songs can be played using just one chord, so let's move right on to our second chord, A major. First finger, fourth string, second fret. Second finger, third string, second fret, and the third finger on the second string, also at the second fret. Fingers upright, not touching the first string by mistake. Let's all try it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Fingers hurt? Good. They'll soon harden up. Play all you can and avoid doing the dishes. Don't play until they bleed. You'll only have to stop playing for a few days and then start over again. Now here's the big problem. When playing songs, you'll need to change from one chord to another. Try playing 4 E's, then 4 A's, without time for a 10-minute tea break in between. At first, you're bound to sound like this. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. But keep at it, and you should get it as smooth as this. Do, 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 do. Hopefully your voice is better than mine. Stop the video now and try 4 E's and 4 A's. Here's the diagram for the chord of D. Place your first finger on the third string at the second fret. Your second finger on the first string, also at the second fret, and your third finger tucks in on the second string at the third fret. This may seem a bit cramped at first, but you'll soon get used to it. What we're going to do now is to combine what we've done earlier with E and A with our new chord D. This is called a chord progression. We'll play 4 strums of each chord. 4 A's, 4 D's, 4 E's, and 4 A's. No gaps, no buzzes or rattles from the strings, all smooth and perfect. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now let's look at another chord progression which gives us a basis for a great many songs. This grouping of chords is an essential ingredient for all guitarists, whatever their style or musical preference. Let's just listen to the chords and get used to their shapes and sounds. Here's G. E minor. A minor. Use only 5 strings here. And D7. Notice I'm only playing the top 4 strings for D7. Now I'll just go through these once again because I want to show you an interesting technique which cuts down on a left-hand finger movement and hopefully makes it easier to locate each of the 4 chords. First, play the G chord. Now, as I change to E minor, I'm going to leave my first finger where it is on the 5th string. This helps me to find my E minor chord. Next, I'll leave my second finger on the 4th string as I search out the A minor chord. You can probably guess the next bit. Leaving my first finger on the 2nd string, I can easily locate the D7 chord. Finally, in order to get back to my G starting point, I can keep my third finger on the high E string and simply move it up one fret like this. Now let's put our good friend Stuart to work. He's going to play these chords 4 beats each, then 2 beats each in sequence. If you feel ready, then try to play along. If not, then you can always refer back to this bit when you've done some more practice. While we're running through this, here's a list of songs which use these chords in one way or another. Okay, Stuart? 1, 2, 3, 4. Thanks very much. Now let's talk about putting our chord progression into a different key. What's he talking about, I hear you say? Okay, suppose you've tried to sing one of the songs listed before and it's either too low or too high for your voice. Then you need to put the song into another key. So basically, I'm going to show you how to achieve the same sounds in another way with another group of chords. For example, here's our original G progression. Now here's the same thing in the key of C. You should be able to hear the similarity. I'm singing the same tune, but it's higher. Listen once again to the difference in sound. So you can now play this basic 4-chord progression in 2 different keys. Of course, eventually, you will be able to play this sound in many more ways. Incidentally, did you notice that I was using both down and up strokes with my right hand there? Let's look at that once again. You should now begin to experiment with right-hand rhythms and try to inject some variety and interest into your chord playing. Here's a few examples of rhythm work.
Not all songs require that you strum the chord all the way through. Both folk and heavy metal players use fingerstyle these days, and some rock players like Jeff Beck and Mark Knopfler use their fingers almost all of the time. So let's have a look at some fingerstyle. Place your left hand in the shape of A minor. Now place your right hand so that your thumb rests on the 5th string. Your first finger sits just beneath the 3rd, your second finger sits just beneath the 2nd string, and your 3rd finger sits just beneath the 1st. Now pluck the strings in this order: 5, 3, 2, 1. 5, 3, 2, 1. 5, 3, 2, 1. A big disadvantage here is that chords that sounded great when you strummed them now suddenly seem to develop buzzes and rattles, so keep an eye on that left hand. Now let's try a similar pattern for E minor, only this time our thumb must play the 6th string instead of the 5th. So E minor, 6, 3, 2, 1. 6, 3, 2, 1. 6, 3, 2, 1. Here are both chords, A minor and E minor, one after another. Let's work through a complete fingerstyle song. House of the Rising Sun is a real oldie, but it's great for getting your fingers working. Here's the chord progression. The fingerstyle pattern we're going to use for this is bass 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. The bass note will change depending upon the chord used. So for A minor, we play 5, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. For D, we play 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Here are the first 3 bars. In bar 4, we have an F chord. This will be hard to play at first, since you need to cover both the 1st and 2nd strings with your 1st finger. I find it easiest to have my 1st finger at this kind of angle in order to press down the strings properly. But really, everybody must find their own solution to problems like these, since we each of us have different sized hands and fingers, and what suits my hand may not suit yours. But keep on trying, and it will come in the end. You may want to stop the tape here and come back in 3 months when F gets a little easier. The remaining chords in the song were all covered earlier, so listen now to the whole song before trying it yourself.
You will probably have already come across the phrase 12-bar blues, but not necessarily know what this means. It is quite simply another very easy chord progression which forms the basis of many blues, rock and roll, and status quo songs. First, let's look at a 12-bar progression using these 3 7th chords. A7, D7, which you already know, and E7. Now here's the 12-bar progression in chart form. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bar 5 changes to D7. Back to A7. Bar 9 changes to E7, to D7, to A7, and E7. Here is the progression once more, using a little more rhythm this time and with more of a blues feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You should take some time now to really learn this progression and begin to play it from memory. In fact, you should really be trying to memorize as many songs as you can lay your hands on. This is an important part of your development as a player and will help you to sense where chord progressions are going and where the changes occur. And of course, it's good fun too. Now, simply strumming the chords isn't really the best way to get the most from our 12-bar progression. Many players in rock and blues use various ways of enhancing or embellishing chord sounds. In fact, sometimes the right sound can be achieved by simplifying a chord. For example, when a rock player thinks of A, he may only play this. As you can see, I'm only using 2 strings here, the open 5th string and the 4th string at the 2nd fret. In other words, I've lost the other 2 fingers from the A chord. You can probably hear that playing an A chord in this way gives us a much rockier sound. If you have a distortion effect pedal, you may like to try this experiment. Switch on your distortion. Play a full A chord. It sounds muddy and cluttered. Now play our new 2-string A chord. Sounds much clearer, doesn't it? Okay, now here are alternative ways of playing the other 2 chords in our 12-bar progression. Here's D. As you can see, this involves playing the open 4th string with the 3rd string at the 2nd fret. And here's our E chord. Again, using only 2 strings, the open 6th and the 5th string at the 2nd fret. Now I'll put these 3 sounds together for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you try this for yourself, you will find that the main difficulty is not finding the chords with your left hand as before, but finding the right pair of strings to pick with your right hand. So take your time to get it right. I'll put some distortion on this again to show you how it can sound. I'll play 8 beats per bar here to give a more authentic feel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's try to embellish these 2-string chords for our blues progression. This should give you a sound that you recognize straight away. Play the new A chord. Now put your left hand 4th finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string here and play the same 2 strings again. Try alternating these 2 positions back and forth like this. Now, to get an authentic sound, play each position twice in a shuffle rhythm like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You should be able to hear the skip in the right hand rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If this is difficult at first, then just keep working at it and it will soon fall into place. Now the good news is that we can apply the same techniques to our other 2 chords simply by picking the other pairs of strings like this. Here's the pattern on a D chord. Remember to play only the 4th and 3rd strings. Now here's the E pattern. This time I'm playing the 6th and 5th strings only, and all the time alternating positions between the 2nd and 4th frets. If you followed this section carefully and worked at our shuffle pattern, then you should now be ready to apply this to the 12-bar blues format. So here's our chart again, but this time we'll replace the ordinary 7th chords with the new shuffle pattern. I'll play it for you now and count you through the changes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Change to D. 5, 6. Back to A. 7, 8. Down to E. 9. To D. 10. Back to A. 11. And E. 12, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
You've come a very long way now. You can tune your guitar, you can play hundreds of songs, provided they have G, E minor, C and D, or C, A minor, D minor and G in them. You can play some fingerstyle, House of the Rising Sun, 12-bar blues and a rock shuffle, and you can do some down-up strumming. Many players take a year or more to learn as much, so do be sure to take care and learn each new technique properly. You've saved yourself months of work just by buying this tape, so don't waste your advantage by being sloppy. We can move on now to learning bar chords and a system for playing any major, minor or 7th chord. In fact, all of the chords you didn't know. We'll look first at a new way of playing A major. The big problem here is that you will need to press down all 6 strings with the first finger at the 5th fret. Before you place the remaining fingers, be sure that your first finger is correctly positioned and not bent or sloping like Zoran's here. Try this. Place your first finger so that it lies actually on the 5th fret rather than immediately behind it as with previous chords. Now, with your finger actually on the fret, gently rotate your finger so that it rolls back to behind the fret. This really will help in producing a clear sounding chord. So, with your first finger now correctly placed, you can put your second finger on the 3rd string at the 6th fret, your 3rd finger on the 5th string at the 7th fret, and finally your 4th finger on the 4th string at the 7th fret. Before your fingers drop off completely, sound the chord, listening for buzzes and rattles, and there'll be plenty of them. Why, you may ask, should I play it like this when I can play it a lot easier elsewhere? The point here is that this major chord shape can be moved up or down the fingerboard, and wherever it lands, it produces another major chord. As to whether this is A major, B major, or D major, depends upon the note found here on the 6th string. At the 5th fret, this is an A major chord shape. Its naming note, or root, is A. So we have an A major. At the 8th fret, major shape, the naming note, or root, is C, so we have C major. Clearly, we must learn the names of the notes on the 6th string so that we know where to find all of our major chords. This diagram shows all of the roots found on the 6th string. You may want to write these down and learn them by heart when I finish talking about minor chords and 7th chords. And now the good news. By removing your second finger from the major shape, you now have a minor chord shape that will also move up and down the fingerboard, and it also takes its name from the note found on the 6th string. So here at the 5th fret, you have A minor. Minor chord shape, the root is A, A minor. At the 7th fret, minor chord shape, the root is B, B minor. Finally, if instead of removing your second finger from the major shape, you remove your 4th finger, or pinky, you then have a 7th chord that once again moves up and down the fingerboard and has its root on the 6th string. So learn these 3 shapes and the roots found on the 6th string, and you'll be able to play any major, minor, or 7th chord. Try this progression: A minor, G, F, and E. For the E, use the easy open string version you learned at the beginning of the tape. It should sound like this. This is a much used chord progression and turns up in Sultans of Swing, Runaway, and dozens of others. Listen out for it. These barré or bar chords will seem difficult at first, but like most things, they do get easier with practice. To use only the 3 shapes you've just learned might prove very difficult, particularly playing D or E chords, which are up way at the 10th and 12th frets. For this reason, you'll need also to learn 3 bar shapes that have their roots on the 5th string. Here they are now, along with a diagram showing the roots found on the 5th string. Here are some progressions for you to practice and learn using bar chords. Remember to ask yourself, is it major, minor, or 7th? On which string is the root? Is it the 5th or the 6th? Rewind the tape and go over this section as often as you need.
Before you can begin to solo, I want to show you a simple and effective method of notating single notes for guitars without you having to learn to read music. This isn't to say that you shouldn't learn to read. On the contrary, it's a very useful skill to have, but we don't have time to teach you just now. So a good alternative is tablature, or tab for short, and it looks like this. The 6 lines represent the 6 strings of the guitar. The top line is the high E or 1st string, and the bottom line is the low E or 6th string. Notes are represented by numbers on these lines, and the numbers indicate the fret at which the string is to be played. For example, a number 1 on the 2nd line, like this, means that you must play the 2nd string at the 1st fret here. So this sequence of notes gives us this sound on the 2nd string. The problem with the tab is that unless we know how the tune is supposed to go, then we do not have any clues as to the rhythm we should be playing. However, if we see these numbers with a title like God Save the Queen written above them, we know that they should produce this sound. So what I'm really trying to say is that tab is really useful, provided that we know how the tune is supposed to sound first. Now that you understand the meaning of guitar tab, let's look at a more interesting group of notes. A great deal of the sounds that you hear in modern lead guitar playing are based around the minor pentatonic scale. Now the word pentatonic simply means 5 tones, and the 5 notes which make up the A minor pentatonic scale are A, C, D, E, and G. The scale will be played in the 5th position. That is to say that your left hand will be covering the fretboard in this fashion. Your first finger will be at the 5th fret. Your second finger will be at the 6th fret. Your third finger will be at the 7th fret, and your fourth finger will be at the 8th fret. Here's the scale in tablature form. Listen carefully to the sound and pay close attention to my left hand fingering. I would strongly recommend that you use alternate down-up strokes with the pick in practicing this scale. This is an important technique in soloing, and mastering it now will save you a lot of grief later when you try to add some speed to your playing. There are only 2 notes per string in the A minor pentatonic scale, so it's a good time to learn the art. I'll play the scale again now a little faster, and watch my right hand. So what can you do with this scale? Well, as it is the A minor pentatonic scale, it can be played over any song in the key of A minor and over an A blues. But perhaps the most useful thing about this scale shape is that just like the good old bar chord, it is entirely movable. If you've learned the 6th string root notes, then you can now play the G minor pentatonic scale in the 3rd position, or the C minor pentatonic scale in the 8th position, and so on. But for now, while all of this new information sinks in, why don't you go back to the A blues I played earlier and you play the scale up and down along with my guitar. Once you've got the minor pentatonic scale firmly under your fingers, you will then want to make your soloing sound more interesting than simply running up and down the scale. One musical device which we can use to achieve this effect is the melodic pattern. These are very common with many of today's great rock players, such as Gary Moore or Steve Lukather. Now, melodic patterns are repetitive ideas which can be shifted through the entire range of the scale. For example, let's take a 4-note ascending pattern like this. Now repeat this pattern starting from the D on the 5th fret of the 5th string. So we now have this effect. Now repeat the pattern from the G on the 4th string at the 5th fret, and again from the 3rd string 5th fret, and finally from the 2nd string 5th fret. Okay, let's put the whole pattern together. In time, you can build up just a little speed and the whole thing can begin to flow like this. So we have an ascending pattern in 4s. Let's look now at a descending pattern in 3s or triplets. This time we'll start from the high C note at the 8th fret on the 1st string. Play down the first 3 notes of the scale. Now double back to the A at the 5th fret on the 1st string and play down 3 notes from here. I'll just put this together so you can hear how the pattern is taking shape. Can you hear how it flows? Listen again. Double back again to the G at the 8th fret, 2nd string, and double back. If we continue in this fashion all the way down to the bottom A on the 6th string, 5th fret, we get this sound. Make sure that you're checking your pattern against the tablature as you play. Let's hear the descending pattern up to speed now, so you can get an idea of what you're aiming for. These patterns are great for putting some life into a simple pentatonic scale. Of course, the number of patterns available is really down to your own imagination, so don't be afraid to experiment. I'd like to play a short solo for you now, which will incorporate all of the things I've shown you. So watch carefully for melodic patterns and repetitive ideas. It would be a good idea for you to learn the solo by heart, one phrase at a time, rather than try keeping up with the tablature. Okay, Stuart, let's have some A minor backing, and off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We hope you've enjoyed this look at basic guitar technique. Remember to listen to all the music you can, go to concerts, practice your chords and soloing, practice your poses in front of the mirror, learn some songs, sing your head off. Remember that making music is something to enjoy. I'd give up tomorrow if it stopped being fun. You'll soon be playing just what you want. We'll see you on the next tape or at the gig.